emergency order, which gives the government of the Bahamas the authority to use temporary but necessary measures in the country's fight against COVID-19.
It's been detrimental. I normally make about between $280 to $300 a day. Now I go over like $100, $180.
Because income from the fair ranges around $80,000 to $100,000, and that's a great amount of loss for us.
Increased restrictions and stiff penalties as the government races to aggressively fight a fast-moving pandemic gripping the world. Good morning, everyone. I'm Akush Lapinder, and welcome to the Morning Edition. The country on the brink of a mandatory 8-hour curfew as new business hours take effect. This as government imposes a mandatory curfew to avoid the spread of the COVID-19 nationwide. Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis, making the announcement yesterday, just days after tabling the emergency proclamation in Parliament. Altavis Munnings tells us more.
The mandatory curfew that begins between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. until further notice is a temporary measure. Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis, disclosed will be used to address the spread of the highly contagious COVID-19 virus.
The orders that I am about to announce are very strong, but they will save lives, which is my greatest responsibility as Prime Minister.
Prime Minister Minnis announced that for 11 days from 9 a.m. on Friday, March 20th, ending at 9 a.m. on Tuesday, March 31st, all establishments, including businesses, offices, stores, and organizations, must suspend operations to the general public. But there are some exceptions. From 6 a.m. to 5 p.m., wholesale or retail grocery stores and farmers markets, pharmacies, commercial ports and related businesses, laundromats and wash houses, as well as gas stations inclusive of the gas trucks and personnel will remain open. Doctors' offices, hospitals, medical facilities, medical supply establishments, hotels, and airports can all remain open. Banks can conduct business between 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Food, drive-through, or takeaway vendors can open between 6 a.m. and 7:30 p.m. Construction companies can open for business between 6 a.m. and 7 p.m. Any other business wishing to open during the specified order must submit their request in writing to the Prime Minister for approval. And to enhance social distance, the Prime Minister added that every person in an establishment or business must distance themselves from other persons at a minimum of 3 to 6 feet.
No person shall visit any place of quarantine or isolation station. No person shall be permitted to visit any detainee in a correctional facility, nor more than one person at any time shall visit a patient in a hospital or residential care establishment or facility. Subject to the provision of this order, every person shall remain in the confines of their dwelling home, inclusive of their yard space.
The Prime Minister also detailed how the order impacts social gatherings.
No person shall host or attend 1. A private party, which includes any person from outside of the immediate household of the house occupant. A recreational or competitive sporting event. A wedding which hosts 10 or more persons other than the bride, bridegroom, official witnesses, and the marriage officer. A banquet, ball, or reception. Any social event. A funeral, except 10 members of the immediate family and at least one officiant and essential mortuary staff, or a meeting of a fraternity society, private or social club, or civic association or organization.
The order also prohibits persons traveling on a public bus, mail boat, inter-island sailing, except for freight transport, or non-essential inter-island commercial sea transport. The curfew, though, does allow for spiritual time.
Nothing in this order shall prohibit religious or educational instruction, worship, or other activity by electronic or virtual means. Nothing will prohibit individual attendance at a church for private individual prayer while maintaining social distances. All other establishments, institutions, businesses, or offices, inclusive of public service, as may be authorized by the respective permanent secretary, shall work from home, and such establishments, institutions, businesses, or offices shall maintain only essential staff for the performance of core function while adhering at all times to social distancing.
All law enforcement personnel, including police, defense force, fire, and correctional services officers, employees of the National Insurance Board, departments of social services and environmental health, sanitation workers, and hospital, healthcare facility, and medical facility staff will be able to continue their duties. Essential services by officers of power and water services, as well as the print and electronic media, are also required during the order. The Prime Minister announced that any person, company, or organization that contravenes any order is liable to a fine not exceeding $10,000 or a prison term not exceeding 18 months, or both. Altaviz Munnings, ZNS Network News.
Well, in the face of those challenges, opposition leader the Honorable Philip Davis says his party was not consulted on the details of the mandatory curfew. Addressing a press conference last evening, Davis says while he's willing to offer up advice to the government in the midst of this global health crisis, the measures imposed are contradictory and pose more challenges than solutions in protecting Bahamians. Here's some of the information on the emergency orders Davis says the opposition provided the government.
Prior to the promulgation of the state of emergency, following that, I indicated in respect to a provision of the regulation that caused much concern to ourselves and to the general community as it related to fake news, that came without the amendment to the provision that we suggested removing the word or and substituting with and. If the or had remained, it did not just relate to fake news. It could have been interpreted to mean that if you provided news, correct or otherwise, you would have been liable to offending that provision and subject to penalty. So we discussed that, and happily they accepted that recommendation.
When we return, the unemployment figure to take a further dip as COVID-19 hits at the heart of the Bahamian job market.
ZNS is everywhere you are when you download the new ZNS app. Watch our live channel to keep up with what's going on in the nation. News updates, we've got you covered. Tune into our radio stations with just a swipe. On the road, on the go, we're here with you. Available for download on the App Store and the Google Play Store.
As an artist, I travel all over the world and I find inspiration all around me. From the people and especially the environment. I love the Bahamas with all its natural beauty. From Abaco in the north to Inagua in the south and all the wonderful and colorful islands in between. But we must all do our part to keep the Bahamas healthy and clean, now and for the future generations. That's why I want you to find a little time to do your part. I'm doing my part because I care. Do you?
For the latest news and highlights in Bahamian culture, tune in to the new Junkanoo 242, Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. on the ZNS Radio and Television Network. Radio Bahamas 1540 a.m. on 104.5 FM and TV 13. Each week, host Arlene Nash Ferguson and Darren Bastian engages listeners with some of the movers and shakers of Junkanoo and Bahamian culture. Don't miss Junkanoo 242, Saturday at 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. on the ZNS Radio and Television Network.
We play just like your kids. We text just like your kids. We learn. We even cook. We take selfies. We have hobbies. And we love sports. In every way, we are just like everyone else and enjoy the same things and live our lives every day, just like you do. So if you happen to meet us, treat us just like everyone else. Because at the end of the day, we're just like you. Living life with Down syndrome is simply living. To learn more about Down syndrome, call 727-2105. This message is brought to you by the Grand Bahama Down Syndrome Society.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, your hottest place on the planet for rims, tints, tires, and auto sales. We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Track Lights, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires. Cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king. Blessed luck. That's how rough riders roll.
It's the OT with yours truly, Charles Fisher.
Buddy Hield and the Kings have their...
Buddy Hield seems to be having the best season of his career. He had 32 points the other night. It was a bit disappointing, Shawnee Miller not winning the IWF World Female Athlete of the Year. The high school rankings will soon be out. Tabernacle, the defending champion, CC Sweeting, they are always there. Who will it be this year? Each Monday on 1540 AM and 104.5 FM, it's the OT with yours truly, Charles Fisher.
Welcome back. Businesses around the country making the touch calls amid the COVID-19 pandemic, with some hotel workers taking voluntary packages and unpaid leave as occupancy level in resorts drop considerably. In studio to discuss the issue with us this morning is Labor Director John Pinder. Welcome to the Morning Edition, Mr.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
Mr. Pinder, give us your take on the current state of employment in the country.
Well, as you know, as a result of this crisis we are going through, a number of hotel properties in particular and other businesses that cater to tourists, from the tourism perspective, has decided to shut down, some for 30 days, some saying as much as 60 days. And as a result of that, a number of employees find themselves unemployed at this time. So what the government has done was to put some assistance in place for them, those who can claim their unemployment benefits from NIB. We're presently doing some registration to get them sorted out so they can get down to NIB and get their unemployment benefit. And in addition to that, there's some extra funds being given to NIB to help some of those persons who may not even be current with their NIB payments. So I think there's as much as $200 a week, and that is what is happening in that regard. We're just hoping that for the most part, our persons aren't terminated. It's a layoff period. So if this can get through this crisis within 60 days or so, I think things will get back to normal to some extent.
Is it safe to presume then that that's your biggest fear, that these people are not terminated in the when this is over?
Certainly that is our biggest fear. We don't want the employer to try to use this period to terminate persons and to try to suggest that the business isn't making any money. So we're hoping that once this turn around, persons are back in the workplace, or if the employer is going to make them redundant, then they have to make sure they have that redundancy package, the funds for that in place.
On that note, where are we with talks regarding hotel workers?
Okay, so for the most part, some of the major hotels have shut down. I know Atlanta say they plan to do it for 4 weeks. I have one concern coming out of this that they're not doing the NIB 880 form so a person can get the unemployment assistance. And so I have to speak to them today on that matter. I'll be hoping that other employers who are actually going on reduced days or those who are going to shut down will ensure that their employees do receive some letter to bring to the Department of Labor so that we can put them in the system and they can get their unemployment assistance. That is the biggest fear. Again, the hotels depend on tourists, and if no tourists is coming, then they're going to be able to remain open. So they are hoping that, again, in 60 days or so, 30 days, they have some bookings, and they just had to shut down for the most part because the airlines aren't flying into the Bahamas at this time.
Now, that's for the most part New Providence. What's the latest coming out of talks with Club Med officials?
Well, I'm hearing too that I haven't seen the official letters yet, but I'm getting information that Club Med has decided to close their doors. Again, that one doesn't sound too promising. Apparently, they're threatening to close down for even prior to the crisis we're going through now. I don't know if that is for a temporary measure to do renovations or if it's lack of business, but certainly we know they cater to a European market, and because of those flights not coming out of Europe, that certainly would impact their business.
Now, COVID-19, we all agree. I think it's fair to say that we agree couldn't have come at exactly. Yeah. You know, we're just coming out of Hurricane Dorian. We've not yet recovered. What are the major challenges right now for your department?
Well, again, the major challenge is still trying to find employment for those displaced persons who find themselves in New Providence, and we won't do it out of the Family Islands, but for the most part, they are in New Providence, and they're trying to find work. We were just hoping that the construction business would pick up. I know Vegas Bay is about to start to rebuild, and we're hoping that those persons who were displaced, who may have some skills, may be able to pick up a job on that project. Again, the project in Grand Bahama is about to commence. We're hoping that they will look at advertising not just in Grand Bahama to find persons, but around the Bahamas, certainly in New Providence, so that persons who are here can go back to Grand Bahama and find employment. There's a project supposed to begin in Eleuthera. Some renovations will be going on in Life at Key. So there's some construction business that should pick up very soon. It's only a matter of whether or not Bahamians have the skill set to meet the criteria for these persons to be engaged.
Now, share with us the added measures that are being put in place to further assist those people with national insurance.
Again, my information is the government has provided national insurance with some $10 million, and that will assist persons who find themselves, even 1 or 200 self-employed persons who don't already contribute to the unemployment side of the NIB benefit, may be able to take advantage of that. The biggest challenge we had yesterday was we had a number of persons from the straw market who are retired persons receiving a pension, and they wanted to ensure they are able to receive the benefit too. A lady explained to us yesterday that for the most part they get $267 a month from the NIB pension, but the government is offering $200 a week. So they are trying to see if they can get the government to agree to postpone their monthly pension payment and give them the weekly $200 a week. That's one have to be discussed with the Ministry of Finance.
All things considered, what's your take on where unemployment will stand when those numbers come out? When you take into consideration Dorian, COVID-19, we're hoping for the best with this situation here, and like you said, that those layoffs are not, that they do not translate into terminations. I know during an earlier conversation you and I had, you were pretty confident that we'd remain under the double digit. Are you still optimistic of that?
I don't know if we'll meet the target that we were trying to reach for 2021. I don't know if we can reach that target anymore, but I certainly know that there are possibilities of Bahamians who are unemployed finding some level of employment, maybe not exactly what you want. I appreciate the fact that we are doing what we can to educate Bahamians, especially from the technical side of things, the BTVI and other vocational institutions are actually ensuring that Bahamians are trained on the cutting edge of technology. The thing is, though, the digital jobs coming out of a meeting in December from the OAS, they've been putting a lot of emphasis on the digital jobs. And I believe Bahamians have to now train themselves or retrain themselves to be able to get some of these digital jobs, which allows you to be in the Bahamas, but your employer could be around any part of the world. You just go away from home. I believe that's the way forward.
Where do we go from here?
From here, well, we can only pray that this thing goes away within a few weeks. We can only hope that, again, there's always been talks about the government's not tapping into our natural resources. And natural resources doesn't necessarily mean just selling of sand and selling of aragonite, but actually creating some manufacturing companies that can manufacture products that comes from our natural resources. I think that's the way forward. And that can be a new stream of revenues coming into our country if we can put some emphasis on that moving forward. So the thing is to be proactive and start to train kids, the younger students, generation, to be able to process aragonite and see what we can produce out of that. I know we talk about it being able to make glass and plastic and pharmaceutical supplies and fertilization, all those other things. So if we can get one or two companies going, maybe we can cause there to be a new industry in the Bahamas.
Well, thank you, Mr. Pinder, for joining us here on the Morning Edition.
Yes,
you're always welcome. As expected, like many in the service industry, local public bus drivers are feeling the chilling effects of social distancing. Lloyd Allen visited a number of terminals, which over the past week have seen numbers plummet as scores of locals remain indoors.
Our news team making the rounds around town at a number of bus terminals like this one on Eastern Bay Street. As you can see, little to no customers, and that's a result of fears surfacing from the coronavirus. Route number 1 bus driver Larry Woodside says ongoing health measures are literally killing the business.
This has been detrimental. I normally make about between $280 to $300 a day. Now I go on with like $100, $180, and that's like really working really hard, and ain't nobody on the road now.
He says for the few customers taking the bus, many drivers are also taking precautions.
Well, I even had no problem with customers sitting together. I had one or two problems with people who coughing. You see what I'm saying? But Clorox takes care of everything. But it's really rough, man. The government need to open up the ports, and this situation needs to be resolved as soon as possible because it's affecting our finances.
Corbell Kohlberg says the union is supportive of national efforts to ensure safety for all. However, without customers, there is no business.
We're running probably at 40% of only people that are going to the food stores, restaurants, the fast food restaurants and stuff like that, construction workers. But when it comes to the hotel workers and the straw market vendors, that is virtually slow. Tourists coming from West Bay, they head in the east into the retreat into Montague or Montague Beach like that. That's just dead right now.
While tourism numbers are historically low for the period, there are a few in the country. Bruce McCabe, visiting from the U.S., says for he and his family, there are no fears of taking the public bus.
I have no concerns or fears about taking the public buses here, or in my own country for that matter, because this is getting blown out of proportion way too far. We have too much of this better safe than sorry attitude, and it's making me mad because it's going to ruin our worlds and our societies.
Meanwhile, these bus passengers have their own thoughts about the virus.
It's kind of scary taking the bus because you don't know who's going to sit on the side of you. You don't know if that person is infected. You don't know who they're being in contact with.
I think especially if you have one sickness and another sickness on top of another sickness, that's very stressful.
Again, tips for public bus passengers based on international recommendations include wash your hands with soap and water at least for 20 seconds. Always wash your hands when you get home or to your destination. Use hand sanitizing gel if soap and water are not available. Cover your mouth and nose with a tissue or your sleeve when you cough or sneeze. Place used tissue in the bin straight away. Try to avoid close contact with people who appear unwell and use exact change. So like many buses around the capital, this one remains with no customers, and that's been the trend for most of the week as many persons remain indoors and in fear as a result of reports of cases here in the capital of coronavirus. Reporting from downtown Nassau, Lloyd Allen, ZNS Network News.
Well, thanks, Lloyd. An organization catering to the public in a major way also forced to make adjustments. With the story, we turn to our LaDawn Davis.
The rapid spread of the coronavirus has forced a number of cancellations of social events. One of them is the Bahamas Red Cross Fair set for April 25th and 26th. Now I'm joined by the president of the Bahamas Red Cross, Therese Curry. Therese, welcome to the morning edition.
Good morning, LaDawn. Thank you. Good to be here.
So, Ms. Curry, talk to us a little bit about, I know that the Bahamas Red Cross Fair has been postponed as a result of the coronavirus. What kind of loss can you say that this will be for, I guess, operations here at the Bahamas Red Cross?
LaDawn, the cancellation or the postponement, of the Bahamas Red Cross Fair is a great loss to the society at this moment in time. The fair is one of our larger income earners, and as you rightfully said, it is over 2 days. And so the income that's being lost by the Red Cross, we have to try to see how we can replace that income, because income from the fair ranges around $80,000 to $100,000, and that's a great amount of loss for us, as it helps us with our operational expenses and running of our programs. You know, we've just recently had Hurricane Dorian and a major disaster recovery efforts, and we had good donations for the disaster, but that was for Dorian, and those funds are earmarked for Dorian. And so fundraising efforts that we do, like the Red Cross Fair, is for our operational funds and to keep programs like our Meals on Wheels, our first aid CPR classes going, our after-school program for the youth going, and our operational expenses, keep the light on and the water flowing. And so it is a great loss to us at this moment.
How will it cripple, I guess, the operations of the Bahamas Red Cross, the Meals on Wheels program? I know you guys have a number of other initiatives going on here at the Red Cross. How will that put a dent in some of the operations that are currently going on here at the Cross?
Well, the Meals on Wheels program will continue to operate. That never stopped through Hurricane Dorian, and it continues today. So we make sure that we allocate funds as best we can to the Meals on Wheels. Also, we have World Central Kitchen, who is working alongside us in the preparation of the meals and for not only our Meals on Wheels program, but also for the shelters and for other persons who are in need of food. So their donations is helping us to keep Meals on Wheels going. We will feel the dent in our operational needs, our lights and water and so on. So those soft things that we need for funding, that we will feel that, and we'll have to be creative in how we keep the lights on and keep salaries going and everything else.
I know that you guys also have another initiative that's been postponed as a result of the coronavirus. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Certainly. And scheduled in May, we usually have our Old School Dance, which is held right here on the property, and it has been a good fundraiser for us. And the fundraising effort is targeted towards Meals on Wheels specifically. And so again, social distancing, so we had to postpone that event. And again, you know, it leaves the challenge of lack of funds and income coming into the society.
And talk to us a little bit more about the Red Cross in terms of preventative measures. I know that I see that there's a number of staff, or should I say new staff around. Talk to us a little bit about that, and what are they currently doing as it relates to preventative measures for the coronavirus?
Certainly. We have instituted our coronavirus emergency protocols. And so for the coronavirus, we have done education on our staff, bringing them fully up to date in all the preventative measures as it pertains to coronavirus virus as issued by the Ministry of Health and the World Health Organization, what we should do. We have, as you would have noticed, as you enter the building, you have the hand washing station. And so at our exits, we have the hand washing station so that you can make sure that you wash your hands thoroughly before you enter our building, and then as you leave, just making sure that persons are safe. We have instituted also a massive sanitization of our building. We've had persons cleaning. We do clean the building generally, but an increased cleaning effort, and particularly in our doors, our door handles, our stair rails, and so on, so that we try our best to make sure that we prevent the coronavirus. We've also, for our volunteers, our many volunteers who assist the Red Cross to carry out its mandate, they have received information on the preventative measures, and we have volunteers who are trained in pandemic instances, so those persons have been put on high alert if and when they are needed, that we have them available to us to assist the government in whichever way they wish for us to assist them.
Therese Curry, thank you so much for joining us on the morning edition and sharing some valuable information on what the Bahamas Red Cross will be doing as a result of the cancellations for the Red Cross Fair and or the, I guess, the nightlife initiative that you guys had set for May.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and best of luck to you in the Bahamas Red Cross.
Thank you, Latonya. Pleasure being here with you.
COVID-19 and how it could have devastating consequences for those battling persistent ailments, that and more when we return.
The natural resources of the Bahamas play a critical role in supporting Bahamian livelihoods. For example, the fishing and tourism industry, which include fishermen, seafood exporters, hoteliers, dive operators, restaurants, and others. Collectively, they generate approximately $1.5 billion a year. Therefore, we must respect and preserve what we have. These resources belong to us.
This is my livelihood.
This is my livelihood.
This is my livelihood.
So let's all do our part to maintain our local economy and a good quality of life. Remember, if we take care of nature, nature will take care of us.
Hi, I'm Stuart Cove, and for many years, I've taken pride in introducing young Bahamians and international visitors to the wonders of our Bahamian underwater world. Our marine ecosystem helps to keep our tourism industry and fisheries sector healthy and lucrative. We must all do our part in protecting it for future generations. And that is why I ensure our staff and customers are taught about the importance of coral reefs. I do this and more to protect our underwater life because I care. Do you?
The Ministry of Health wishes to advise members of the public that prevention is key during this flu season. Practicing good cough hygiene can make the difference between you and your loved ones getting the flu or spreading the influenza virus. Good cough hygiene habits include covering your mouth and nose with a tissue when coughing or sneezing, and proper disposal of the tissue in a trash bin. Coughing or sneezing into your upper sleeve near your inner elbow and not your hands when a tissue is not available. Avoiding the use of handkerchiefs and towels as they hold germs, becoming a nest for the virus. And frequently washing your hands with soap and water, which is listed as one of the most important steps you can take to avoid getting sick and passing the virus on to others. If you have any questions about how to practice good cough hygiene to avoid catching or spreading the flu, contact your nearest community clinic or the Health Education Division at the Ministry of Health. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Health in partnership with the Public Hospitals Authority.
Just like my love everlasting.
Welcome to the best of sports world.
Hey, I'm Megan Shepard, a reporter here at the ZNS Northern Service. Did you know that ZNS is right at your fingertips when you download the new ZNS app? Missed something in our newscast? That's okay. Simply pull up the app, swipe, and you'll find all of our news headlines and highlights. So what are you waiting for? Download the new ZNS app today.
COVID-19 can certainly have devastating consequences on those with underlying ailments. A consultant family medicine specialist this morning joins our LaDawn Davis.
Thank you, Makushla. I'm joined here with Dr. Sabrika Butler, who is going to share with us some of the preventative measures for persons with compromised immune systems. Dr. Pinder, welcome to the Morning Edition.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So, Dr. Pinder, talk to us a little bit about the risk for persons that have compromised immune systems. What can they expect if they are, I guess, victims of the coronavirus?
Okay. So what we have found from other studies that have looked at COVID-19 and its impact, we found that persons that have chronic medical conditions such as diabetes, heart conditions, lung diseases, as well as hypertension are at higher risk of symptoms or the impact of contracting COVID-19.
What is the advice you want to give, I guess, to persons who, I guess, have these compromised systems?
So, I mean, it's important for us to look at this, of course, in country, because we know that we do have persons in the Bahamas that have those conditions, high blood pressure, diabetes, asthma, and things along that line. We want to make sure that they also practice the preventative measures that we speak to, like the social distancing, making sure that hand washing occurs for at least 20 seconds, making sure that they have enough medical supplies should they need them. We also want to encourage them to have the persons that are around them also practice these measures. Certainly, we know that the country is now on lockdown, so we want to encourage them, to even not be involved in any travel, non-essential travel at this time, and to encourage members that are in their family as well to do those things, because they're extremely important.
Let's take a closer look at some of the chronic ailments that persons who are unaware. Talk to us a little bit about those diseases.
So, some of the conditions, as I mentioned before, would be like high blood pressure, diabetes, lung conditions, asthma, things along those lines. We also want to ensure that those persons are staying in contact with their physician. We promote that as well for persons, even if you think you have symptoms of any respiratory illness at this time, to please call ahead of coming to a clinic or call ahead to the surveillance unit that's in place by the Ministry of Health so that they can provide you with any guidance that you may need. It's extremely important at this time.
And I see a lot of Bahamians, I should say all Bahamians, are adhering to the social distancing initiative. Talk to us a little bit about, I guess, what can family members do to assist persons who may be experiencing symptoms that have compromised immune systems?
So certainly we want to encourage family members at this time. In particular, we speak about the importance of social distancing because we want to protect those persons who are at higher risk. So the persons with the chronic medical conditions whose immune system may be weakened as well. We want to make sure that we protect them to coming into contact with any respiratory illness or COVID-19. We want to encourage them as well to themselves practice those preventative measures. If you know that you're sick, do not come in contact with persons with chronic medical conditions as much as possible. In terms of even helping them limit their contact with other persons, because they may not even be aware that they have symptoms. So if you're able to help a family member go and buy their groceries for them, go and get their medication for them so that they can limit the interaction that they have with other persons, that would be extremely helpful.
I know you told me earlier that they should not come to the hospital, but rather to seek other medical attention.
So absolutely, we've been encouraging all persons in the country at this particular time, if you think you have symptoms of any respiratory conditions, fever, cough, anything along that line, please call ahead before you come to the clinics. Call ahead. We'd like you as much as possible to refrain from coming to the hospital as well at this time. Call ahead. There are various numbers that I'm sure will be provided to you again at the surveillance. The Ministry of Health also has information on its Facebook page, but it's important because we want to make sure that we contain this. Containment right now is extremely important for us to limit the spread of COVID-19 in country.
How widespread are some of these ailments, not only here in New Providence, but around our Family Islands?
So we have about over 30,000 persons that have diabetes in the country, and roughly 2 out of every 4 to 5 persons as well in the Bahamas have high blood pressure. So this is relatively common, relatively common.
And I know we've only spoken about, I guess, what persons can do here in New Providence, but what about preventative measures, I guess, for persons with chronic immune diseases over in the Family Islands?
So absolutely, the same thing applies to persons in the Family Islands. We want to make sure that our Bahamian population understands that this is not only to New Providence. We are a global society, we travel. So ultimately, everyone needs to take the same precautions, hand washing, social distancing, being at least 3 feet or 1 arm's length away from persons who don't appear to have symptoms, and definitely if someone is coughing, 6 feet away, or limit contact altogether, making sure that you disinfect items such as your cell phones, door handles, and staying at home as much as possible. That is important for us to please listen to the guidance that has been given by the Ministry of Health and our Prime Minister as well, to make sure that we make the Bahamas as safe as possible.
Dr. Pinder, thank you so much for joining us here on the Morning Edition. I know you're busy, but continue to do a great job as you, I guess, raise awareness and bring information to the public on the coronavirus.
Thank you so much for having me, LaDawn.
Thank you. Makashla, back to you.
Well, thanks, LaDawn. Face masks, hand sanitizers, and gloves. But when it comes to social distancing, some Bahamians aren't prepared just yet to give up on the little luxuries in life that pampering brings. Business then for some nail and beauty parlors in New Providence has been unfazed, at least according to the owner of a Palmdale spa, who earlier this week told us despite the prevailing threat of COVID-19, clients were still booking appointments with no cancellations in sight. Renola Knowles, a hairstylist and colorist at Hairworks, can relate.
We've been keeping in touch with our clients. We have sent out numerous, social media warnings and how we're taking precautions in the salon as far as this virus is concerned. We are asking our clients as they enter the salon to please go and wash their hands first and foremost. Our health is just as important as theirs. We'd like to cater to them as long as we can. And we're asking clients that if they're feeling any symptoms to please reschedule their appointments. We'll be more than accommodating to do that. We have antibacterial soaps. We sanitize the door handles, the phones. Just trying to do whatever they suggest. I think we're just going to take it day to day.
But some would say Hairworks has been lucky, as others have already seen business come to a crawl.
It's good, straight up until yesterday. After the confirmed case, we have a decline in customer. Because see, this morning we'd have a lot of school kids and all that, and being that school closed, all that gone. So we just have 1 and 2 for now. Normally I cut at least 5, 6, and now I only have 1.
Well, before we turn to our daily traffic report, police passing on to us preliminary details of an early morning homicide in Stapleton Gardens. What we do know so far is that the incident happened shortly after 3 a.m. At the time, 3 men were standing outside a home on Albatross Road when a silver vehicle pulled up. Police tell us a gunman exited the vehicle and shot one of the men before jumping into the car and speeding off. Paramedics were called to the scene. However, efforts to revive the wounded man were unsuccessful. He died right there on the scene. From here, we turn our attention now to our Lloyd Allen, who's out there in the Carmichael Road area. Lloyd?
The traffic report is sponsored by Bahamas First. First in insurance. Today, tomorrow.
Yes, good morning, Makushla, and good morning to all of our viewers. This morning, we are in the Carmichael Road area. As you can see from our drone shot, traffic at this hour is at a minimal, and it's much less than it would be on a normal day. Of course, many persons attempted to stay off the streets and trying to adhere to that national curfew from that emergency order. Of course, I'm also joined this morning by Sergeant Jerron Thompson from the Royal Bahamas Police Force Traffic Division, who's a part of a greater crew of officers sporadically spread throughout the island, assisting the public in adhering to that national curfew. Good morning, Officer Thompson.
Good morning to you. Good morning, Bahamas.
So talk to us a little bit. I know officers have been are part now of a crew spread throughout the island to assist the public in adhering to that national curfew. We saw a few buses earlier. Talk to us a bit about those public buses and how officers are reminding the public to adhere to that curfew.
Okay, from about 6 a.m. we've been out here on the streets of the Providence. We've been educating and giving poisonous information concerning the national emergency orders. We've been advising the public service drivers, because as of 9 a.m. there should be no public service vehicles on the street. That includes taxis, private charters, omnibuses. They should not be on the streets after 9 a.m. today.
And of course, as we were out here for some time, I've observed yourself and some officers pulling those buses, reminding them as well. What happens after 9 a.m.?
Well, for the most part, we've been documenting those places that we have been wanted. So if we were to see them after 9 a.m., then the full brunt of the law they will experience.
Also this morning, you talked to us a little bit about an accident that happened near the traffic division on the Independence Highway.
Yes, right now on the East-West Highway, we have an active scene going on where we have an overturned vehicle. We have officers actively investigating that accident. We ask persons to, if you can, avoid that area, and if you must travel along that route, do so with extreme caution.
Now, of course, it's several hours before 9 p.m. For the rest of the motoring public, what sort of advice can you offer to them as they obviously are near the Super Value store as well? Many persons trying to get those last-minute items. What sort of advice can you give the public to ensure that they adhere to that 9 p.m. curfew?
Well, you got at least 12 hours now before 9 p.m. So I advise persons to get out on the street early. Try to get what you need for your household. Get that before 9 p.m. because the Prime Minister and the Attorney General, they were absolutely clear as it relates to the 9 p.m. curfew. So I'll advise persons not to make history to be the first persons to be arrested with regards to the curfew.
And of course, one last question as well. As I said, there are still some persons on bus stops attempting to get to work or to their other locations. What advice can officers give those persons who have to go to work or who have to go other places?
Well, I guess as the day progresses, some of these workplaces will be shut down. We advise persons to try to see if you can get a relative or some close friend to assist you to your destination, because as like I said again, as of 9 a.m. there will be no public service transportation services on the road. So we advise persons to try to get to and from by other means. There will be no public service transportation vehicles on the road.
Are police concerned any bit about overwhelming cells or overwhelming numbers of persons disobeying those curfews?
Well, the law is clear. We have some concerns, of course, yes, but the law is clear, and it is not our job to interpret the law or what have you. It is our job to enforce the law. So what we're going to do, what we need to do, as respect to the law.
And again, that curfew takes effect at 9 p.m. durates for 8 hours up until 5 a.m. Reporting here from Carmichael Road area, Macushla. Back to you in studio.
Well, thank you, Lloyd. Jonathan, things have been particularly quiet in the sports world. What can we expect this morning?
Definitely. Our men's national soccer team, they were scheduled for a major regional competition in a few days' time. That's been put off. We're going to talk to the president of the Bahamas Football Association.
Well, that and more when we return.
Long time no see.
You hear me?
Long time no see.
Boiled fish, stew conch. I love it all.
Tourists come here to take our tours, experience our sun, sand, and sea, and they also spend money around town.
I used to see a bunch of hogfish around here, but nowadays I hardly see any.
You protect one area, the fish do they thing, make a bunch of babies that spread all over the sea. What's the problem?
If we protect certain parts of our sea, it keeps all parts working right.
I was against that phase, but knowing what I know now, I totally agree with having marine protected areas.
I support marine protected areas.
We support marine protected areas.
Look for Bahamas Protected on Facebook.
Sign the petition. Sign the petition.
Welcome to sports, everybody. After exceeding expectations in their group stage of the CONCACAF Nations League, our men's national soccer team earned the right to play against a higher level of competition in the qualifying rounds of the Gold Cup. Their first match was actually scheduled to take place in a matter of days against French Guiana, but COVID-19 forced a postponement. We caught up with Bahamas Football Association President Anton Sealy to get his take on this matter and others pertaining to the global pandemic.
Totally unfortunate, but obviously the health and safety of not only players but the fans as well comes first. And this is obviously a global pandemic that we're facing, unprecedented, nothing that we've ever encountered before. So the entire world is going through a process where we're trying to really find out what's going on. Sports, while it's a great distraction for most people in most times, right now this is, as I said, unprecedented. It's nothing that we've ever faced. And so we're just following the instructions, the direction of the health professionals and the government, various governments, and obviously sporting body heads, regional heads, FIFA, CONCACAF, and the CFU. So they have decided that in light of what's going on, not unlike any other sport, we have canceled or postponed our competition, including the Gold Cup, until right now it's on hold for technically for 2 months. But who knows? I know UEFA has already canceled their competition into next year, and in all likelihood we may be faced with the same thing.
Sealy went on to speak about how a postponement will affect the calendar if the Gold Cup qualifiers are pushed back to next year.
FIFA has to sit, and they are doing so right now, looking at the calendar and see how they can manipulate the calendar into next year, because some of these competitions are fixed dates, and and it's not an easy thing. We have the World Cup coming up as well, so you have to start World Cup qualifiers. So it's a complex process, but I know that FIFA is at this moment looking at ways and means by which we can accomplish each confederation's domestic competitions as well as the international competitions.
And speaking about domestic leagues, the Bahamas Men's Soccer League has also been put on hold.
We were off to a pretty good start, some keen competition. Our teams were really giving us some good games to watch. We were winding down our youth league as well. So yeah, it's disrupted life as we know it. But again, that's a small, minor consideration to what the world is facing. So it's putting everything in perspective. It's not a big deal.
In addition to the men's and youth league, leagues. The BFA was also scheduled to implement a Masters League this year. Seeley spoke about if that will still come off.
So the guys want to play, and so, our job is to provide the avenues for anybody who wants to play this beautiful game to play. So the Masters have always indicated that they wanted their own space, and so we were prepared and we created that space for them. Unfortunately, this thing hits, but yes, once this thing is beyond us, which I'm sure we will survive, no question, everything will resume as normal.
Like other sporting disciplines, the BFA has a number of athletes abroad on college scholarship, and Seeley says they have been in contact with those individuals.
Most colleges have shut down classes. They're now resuming slowly but remotely with remote online courses, etc. So most of our players are still abroad. We had scheduled a camp for Jacksonville over the spring break holiday, but naturally that had to be postponed as well. So we haven't had the ability to bring the team together as we would have liked before the competition. But right now, all football is postponed, shelved for the time being. So we're just continually in touch with them, ensuring that they are safe and are taking the necessary precautions to keep themselves in any kind of condition that they can, given the restrictions that have been placed on them, depending on where they are.
Italy has been one of the countries most affected by COVID-19 thus far. One of the BFA's own, Christopher Gadet, is a student athlete there. Gadet recently returned home and is now under quarantine.
We were concerned for Christopher, of course. His dad was a former national coach, and we were, I personally was reaching out to him to see, what was Christopher's status. Initially, I thought they were going to leave him there, but I think they made the right call in bringing him home. And, another week or so, he should be reunited with his family. But it's hitting us in many ways.
The biggest sporting event of 2020 is, of course, the Olympic Games, the grandest spectacle in all of sports. Soccer is one of the disciplines contested, and Seeley gave his take on whether or not he believes the Tokyo Games will go on as planned.
I know it hasn't been postponed or anything done with it at this point, but I just can't see, with all the every sporting body shut down, how the Olympics can possibly go. And I'm not even sure what the status of training is for the athletes who are to compete in these games. So I personally, I can't see it happening. If it happens, I don't know what kind of competition you will see, what kind of performances you will see. But, again, we'll have to wait and see. But my personal opinion is I doubt the Olympics will happen this year.
That's a look at sports. The Morning Edition comes back after this.
Andros is the #1 bone fishing destination on our planet. Sports fishermen visit our flats every year to participate in one of the most fulfilling outdoor activities known to man, fly fishing. And guess what? It's 100% sustainable. Without areas like the west side of Andros, sustaining this industry would be absolutely impossible. So let's take care of nature, and nature will take care of us.
My name is Kai. And my name is Caitlin. And we attend St. School. And we love watching the ZNS Kids Club. My name is Kyle Jones. I go to one-on-one preschool, and I love watching the ZNS Kids Club.
Hi, I'm Toronto Fairview Academy, and I love watching the ZNS Kids Club.
Well, it's time for our morning forecast, and outside of our studios, we have partly sunny skies. Your temperature at 73 degrees, relative humidity 73%. East-southeast winds at 10 miles per hour. The barometric pressure 1,025.5 millibars. It's 30.29 inches, and the pressure is rising. Temperatures this morning around the islands: Marshall at 74, 73 in Grand Key, Freeport at 73 degrees, the Berry Islands 75, 76 in Allenstown, Bimini 75, in Harbor Island, Roxanne, Lutra 75. Also, South Canal reported 75 degrees. Staniel Key, Kemp Space, St. Andros at 74, 75 degrees in Fresh Creek. In Ragged Island, San Salvador, first of all, at 75. Rimkey, 75 degrees. In Ragged Island, 75 as well. Ackland, 76. Betsy Bay, Megwana, 76. Matthew Tananagua, 75. And the Turks and Caicos Islands at 76 degrees. And your boating forecast for today, easterly winds 15 to 20 knots. This is in the northwest Bahamas. So we have caution flags up, wave heights 4 to 6 feet over the ocean. High tide, that will take place at 6:11 this morning. Low tide at 12:38 this afternoon. In the central and southeastern islands, the winds will be easterly as well, 15 to 25 knots. Very rough seas, 5 to 8 feet over the ocean. So we have an advisory in place for your boaters in the central and southeastern Bahamas. And our satellite picture, once again, still showing a bit of clouds over the central and southeastern Bahamas, mostly sunny over the northwest Bahamas today, and that will continue right through the weekend with 1 or 2 brief spotty showers in the afternoon today and tomorrow. And here goes our forecast for today. Partly sunny with a shower in spots in the afternoon. 82 degrees for your high temperature tonight. We're looking at mainly clear and breezy. Very comfortable temperature with a low of 69 degrees. And the extended weather forecast, as we already told you, 1 or 2 brief showers on Saturday afternoon. Outside of that, looking pretty good on Sunday, and that will carry us right through the early part of next week. Makishla.
Thanks, Basil. That does it for our morning edition. As always, have a safe day. 2 important reminders for you. 1, be sure to join the ZNS Television and Radio Network for our continued coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic. And before we leave, we want to send a special birthday to our colleague, Charles Fisher, who's celebrating the Big 5 for today. Thank you. Charles, happy birthday.